If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's certain tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM.
Welcome to the Recycle Podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts,
Dr. LaFonya Jones,
Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is down to earth, informative, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up the volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 14, This Broad.
So this is going to be a little bit different, everybody. We don't have a specific topic for this particular session, and this is just going to be us in our element. It may be a slightly explicit episode. So if you have sensitive ears or are sensitive to certain subject matters, you know, tune in for session 15.
Just skip this one all the way.
Yeah. But one of the first things that we want to talk about, so this week I had been talking with one of my clients about how humanness is very complex. So one of the things that she's struggling with is that she's coming into therapy and she would like, you know, her process of going through therapy to be very cookie cutter. She wants to be able to put everything in its nice, neat little box so that she can move on. So I've learned my boundaries. So now what? I've learned how to be assertive. So now what? I've learned how to express my feelings in a way that's not destructive. So now what? And she has this idea of really kind of wanting to be flawed.
Mm-hmm.
So she keeps thinking that she's got this particular type of diagnosis. It's a personality disorder. And I've been talking with her about, don't Google everything. I know we tell people, do your Google, but you can get into a huge rabbit hole with looking up
though.
Right.
Because if you look it up, if you Google your symptoms, you can find yourself in many of the diagnoses.
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time.
Yes.
And that's what I've really been trying to kind of hammer into her is that, you know, if you, from a clinical standpoint, and I was telling Dr. Jones this, you may not know this, Dr. Wall, I took the DSM and I just kind of flipped it open to a page and it landed on kleptomania. Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know what kleptomania is just basically compulsive stealing. Mm-hmm. And I said, you don't think that at some point in your life that you stole something? So now that means you're a kleptomaniac? So then I flipped it to something else and it landed on factitious disorder. Mm. And so for those that don't know what that is, it used to be called Munchausen. So I said, okay, you've never done anything where you tried to get somebody's attention just for the sake of getting somebody's attention so they feel sorry for you or something like that. You've never done that ever? She was like, well, yeah, I have. I said, so, now you got Munchausen?
Yeah, that's why people go to school for what we do. Like, It's not just, you can't just have a symptom. You got to have the symptom in conjunction with this other symptom for this amount of time with this, and then no.
Yeah.
Is it causing you distress?
Yes.
You know, like people, what it puts me in the mind of is when people, especially in our community, the Black community, always be telling people that they bipolar because they mood keeps switching. No, they got feelings.
Oh, God,
people.
I hate hearing that.
I
Well,
do-
they were mad one minute and then they was happy the next minute. So, you know, I told her with her bipolar.
So they rapid
Behind.
cycling. That's what you telling me.
But the thing is, if you think about it, we all go through a plethora of emotions all day. So if
Because-
that's the case,
That's
all of us are
normal.
bipolar.
Like, why would you
Exactly.
want to have one emotion your whole life? You just gonna be manic your whole life. Like, that's weird.
No, that's
It
why
is.
we have a whole like dictionary full of emotions, because we can have all of those emotions.
And, you know, so the thing that I was talking with her about is that when I was saying the complexity is that all of those things exist at once.
Yeah.
So yes, sometimes you are going to manipulate somebody. Sometimes you're going to hurt somebody. Sometimes you're going to take advantage of someone. Sometimes someone's going to take advantage of you. Sometimes you're going to be manipulated. And all of those things can coexist in you at the same time. You know, that there's no singular thing. It's, you know, they're not mutually exclusive. But, you know, she's really having a hard time kind of coming to terms with that. Well, because I yelled at my mom, that means I'm an abusive person or a worthless child. Like, it's really deeply ingrained in, you know, we've been trying to talk about, like, look, you're complex. It's like a big old giant bowl of soup. Like, there's a whole bunch. Yeah. And that was the example that I gave her, you know, that if you think about all of the elements that go into a bowl of soup, you know, you've got your seasonings, you got your broth, you got your meat, vegetables, if you know, whatever you're going to put in there. And once all of those things combine together, you cannot tease them back apart. You can't pull the salt out of soup. You can't pull the well, if you have basil leaves, you can. But but, you know, it would be hard. Like, if you have beans in there, yeah, could you, in theory, pull them all out? But it's going to take you a really long time. Like, it's very difficult to separate all of the parts of you into their little boxes.
Well, the thing is, when we have that complexity is what makes us who we are. And if you try to take that away, then how will you grow? How will you learn? How will you be able to exist in this world? Because it's just kind of like you're blah at that point.
Yeah.
You know, two things that kind of stand out in my mind. One is she's not solution focused. That's the first thing I noticed. It's all about what the problem is instead of like, how do I solve this? Is this something that I want to solve? Because sometimes there's certain things that may be a problem for someone else, but that you're totally okay with. Like, I'm a whole introvert. You talk to my mom, and my mama don't want me to be an introvert. She want me to be out and doing stuff. I would lose my mind and be crazy. I love reading a good book. I go to faraway places with, you know, fairies and werewolves and vampires. The second
That's
part,
right up my alley.
yes, we need to have a book club.
We do.
Not if we're going to be reading that stuff. I ain't reading it.
This is our book club.
Okay. I was like, hold on.
Just gonna tell me what I'm gonna read.
If I'm
was
going to be a
like-
part of this book club,
Well,
I
you-
am not
I
reading
am
it.
all about the graphic novel.
Thank you. Well, you know what? You read your book. She can read hers, and then I can read mine.
And we just all come together
Yeah.
and talk about 3 different books.
I
It's
like
okay.
it.
I'm fine with that. That's more,
Okay.
more reading.
See
I
how
didn't
that
have
problem solving went right there? That's
Boom.
solution focused.
The other thing that I picked up about your client, and this is something that I see in my clients as well, they don't want to go on the journey. They don't want to go through the process. It's all about, I need to hurry up and get there. But you don't know where you going.
Right.
And if you don't learn what you need to learn at every step of the way, we gonna have to come right back here next year this time and learn this same lesson again, and then I'm gonna be upset.
Well, and that's the thing.
Yes.
If we think about it, everything on earth has to be processed.
Yes.
When you build a house, it's a process. When you plant flowers and plants and grass, trees, that's a process. When as before we're born and our mother is carrying us in her womb, that's a process. You know, everything is a process. We don't just blink our eyes, snap our finger, click our heels together and it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's not how life goes.
It would be great if it did, but that's not reality.
No, we'd be out of a job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of them reasons why I read the books I read. So I can go there for a little bit, then I can come back to reality. Because sometimes reality get on my last nerve. But that's okay. Let me go take a reprieve, then come back and get back to business.
No, but I think people, because one of the things that I'm wondering about your client, and you know, is if she's outside of here just focusing on their mental health. Like, yes, we want you all to focus on mental health. We want you to focus on your mental health. We want you to focus on your emotions, your physical, all of those things. But we do. There is a point in time where you have to
Stop.
Stop and get away from that life of being so serious and have fun. Have some joy in your life. Have something.
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because I had actually made her skip 1 week, and I told her, do not focus on trying to change at all. Like, take everything that we've been talking about for the last few months and apply it. And she almost had a breakdown.
I can imagine.
Yeah. She said it was so hard for her to not focus on mental health, you know, because one things that I do talk with clients about is you are what you consume. So if you consume trash, you're going to output trash. If you consume health, you will put out health. So, you know, I think she took that idea and kind of went a step further. Yeah.
She was on the rumination stage.
Exactly. So I said, okay, I need you to take a week off so that you can really just focus on just being you. Don't worry about the stuff that we've talked about. Don't worry about trying to set boundaries and do all of these things. Like, just be, and don't think about me, and don't think about, well, I can't wait till next session. Cause she says that all the time. I knew I couldn't wait for today.
Oh, she's not in the here and now at
all.
And that's very dangerous. You definitely use your past, you know, to know things that you need to work on, and you use your future as things you know that you're working towards. But you live here.
Right.
You live in this moment.
Well, and that's how anxiety and depression, you just said
both.
Yeah, that's how anxiety and depression exist, because depression is about the past and anxiety is about the future.
Yep.
And you can't do that. You cannot do that at all. Like, this week, I've really been trying to focus on non-attachment. And that means attaching myself to anything outside of me. And that means
I like that concept.
My looks, that means my body. And for anybody that doesn't know, I am a recent, breast cancer survivor. Amen. Hallelujah.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So I'm trying to work on not attaching the fact that I can't breastfeed, because I don't have my boobs no more. I got some nice boobs. That's fake boobs, y'all. Boobs. But there are certain things that are just no longer part of my life anymore. But that also can be, okay, being overweight, or I didn't get this degree, or I got that degree. I don't have this job and I have this job. It's like anything outside of who your spirit is, your soul is. That's not the real you. Those are just things that you put on to make you feel better, and those are voids. There's nothing wrong with having anything outside of yourself. I'm not saying that, but the non-attachment component is something that we, especially in America, we got to work on.
And it's so interesting you say that, because this recently, I don't want to say this week, but here more recently, I've been focused a lot on being true to me. And that means about my opinion. It means about my values, what I believe, what I like and dislike, what I am open to, what I'm not open to. I've been focused a lot about, and the thing is, when I say that, it doesn't mean that I can't communicate and have relationships with people who think differently, because I embrace that. That calls for us to have good dialogue. It calls for us to have good confrontation, because a lot of people think that when you have confrontation, it always has to lead into an argument. No, that is not always the truth. You can have healthy confrontation, and what that is because confrontation can allow relationships to reconcile.
Yeah.
you know?
It's a space for dialogue.
Yes.
It's the same way that people associate disagreement with fight.
Yeah. And we can do a session on that. Fair fighting rules. That's something that most therapists teach their clients, and it's definitely something that we can talk about, because I don't think we've talked about that yet. But people's arguing styles are garbage. Like, they in the trash can. Like, I'd be like, that's what you thought you should say to somebody?
Yeah.
I'd have knocked you out somewhere.
Right.
Like,
Girl.
Right. And you know what? A lot of times when in communication, I tell my clients, like, it may not if you get upset about what I say, then that's not on me. That's on you. It resonated with you.
That
but
part.
But if you get upset by how I say it, then that is on me, because I delivered it on a trash can top. So therefore, I have to fix that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But just because I say something in a way that may have rubbed you the wrong way, it doesn't mean we have to argue about it. You tell me how it made you feel, and then I can correct it. I can say, you know what, I apologize. I didn't mean to say it that way, but what I said, I meant. I just didn't mean to say it that way.
There's a difference between intent and impact. Those are two very different things. I can intend not to hurt you, but the impact of how I did it or whatever can be scarring. And you have to be, both parties or whoever has to be receptive to both parts of that.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the examples I usually give my clients is, I'm fine. You know,
I hate that statement.
What does that even mean?
Well, what I usually do is, when you were talking about impact versus intent, and then, you know, how you say it, you know, if your partner asks you what's wrong, you say, I'm fine. Or I'm fine. I'm fine. You know, all of those communicate something extremely different.
But none of them is saying the
Anything.
words.
Right.
So I got to mind read you.
Right. You know, and being clear with what you say. So I kind of do something very similar and say the sender is responsible for the message that comes out. The receiver is responsible for asking for clarification if they don't know what the message was. Oh, and I also talk about with running with your storyline. I think I say that at least
I've heard
3
you
to
say
4
that.
times a week at least. You cannot run with your own storyline in your head because this person said something, it triggered in you. And I talk with clients about pay attention to your body. Your body's going to tell you instantly if something bothered you. Your eyebrows going to furl, or you going to, like you're going to do something.
Right.
And that is your key to say, you know what? Hold on. Let me stop. Let me ask this person to clarify whatever it is that I'm running with in my head.
Yes.
Yeah, it's y'all, perception is not reality. There is a lot of misperceptions and conceptualizations that people just be running with. And if for y'all that don't know what a misperception has a kernel of truth in it. There's something that has happened in your own life to where you have attached that to what this situation is. It could actually be factual, or it could be a blatant lie. The conceptualization is just something you came up with off the top of your head. What we're talking about is misperceptions. Both of them ain't right, but you
So
can't just go. The example that I recently read in a book was, if you have a coiled garden hose and you just look over there real quick and it's dark, you might think that that's a snake because you know snakes is coiled up like that. We live in Texas. Rattlesnake sneezing is prevalent.
Heavy.
Yes. However, until you turn them lights on, you don't know if that's really a snake, other than if it's a rattler, they would have been rattling. But you can't just make up rules and things and run with that. You need to have some actual factual
Data.
Yeah, that is not okay.
Yeah.
And that perceptions are going to differ. So I don't do this activity anymore, but when I used to run group, I would have an object that I would sit in the center. So since you guys can't see, so Dr. Jones is over to my right and Dr. Wall is over to my left. So I would sit an object right here where I'm at. And then I would talk about what you see on this object
Mm-hmm.
and what Dr. Jones would see on this object are going to be two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a water bottle, you both may start off with saying it's a water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But when I ask you to describe what you see, you're not going to see what she sees because you can't see the back of the label, if there's like a scratch on it or if there's something missing.
I may see the K and the A. You may see the O and the R from Osaka.
Right. But you both are perceiving. So
Yep.
you may have both have a general idea because it's a water bottle. And even if that's what you call it,
Yeah.
you may not call it a water bottle. You may call it a thermos or some sort, you know what I'm saying?
Or somebody, I may just say it's water.
Right. So, you know, how, even though you're both looking at the same
Yeah.
object, how you're perceiving that object is going to be vastly different.
And it's still a flawed view because
Exactly.
it's not the whole
Picture.
360.
Yeah, you got to have the whole picture, and a lot of times people just run. So assumptive thinking is your experience, and then it has holes in it, and you just fill it in with whatever you know to be true from your past experiences. That's not reality, and I don't get into arguments with people like that. I was literally just talking about this with Dr. Jones. I'd be like, oh, okay, you gonna argue by yourself. I ain't got the time or the energy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people, because you typically experience a feeling because of the perception, you think you're right because you have the feeling. But feelings can be unreliable as well. Now feelings are an indicator that something is off,
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean that the feeling is true.
yeah.
You know, that's my favorite line.
Yes, I was surprised you hadn't brought that in.
Girl, just because it's in your head, that doesn't mean it's true. It's real.
Yeah.
Because, and it's real and it's valid because it is something that you are actually experiencing. But just because you have a thought in your head, that does not make it true.
Yeah. And the thing that I tell my clients is if you have a feeling, it is an indication that something is happening. However, you need to figure out what happened and you need to identify what the appropriate thoughts are for what happened. The feeling is neither right or wrong. What you do with it becomes the problem.
Because all emotions are healthy. We make them unhealthy, you know? So, and I use this example with my clients. So say, for instance, I usually put like healthy and unhealthy on the board. And I say, okay, so what's the healthy version of depressed? And they say, sad. They say it just like that because they don't know. They say, sad. And I tell them, yes, sad is the healthy version of depression because with sadness, you know that there is something going on. It's an indicator that something is going on, but you won't stay stuck there. Now, if you move from sad to depressed is unhealthy because you can get stuck in depression.
Yeah. Something that I add on to that is I tell my clients, look, feelings have never killed anybody on their own. Now, what has hurt people is how people reacted to their feelings.
Yes.
But the feeling itself, you know, I use anger as a one for a lot because it's a good default, you know, and we taught that there's no difference between anger. It's the same feeling. Now, if I'm angry and I scream at you and I punch you in the face and I do all of this stuff, unhealthy, like you said, Dr. Jones. But if I get angry and I say, you know what, you really hurt my feelings. I don't appreciate the way you spoke to me, or, you know, this made me feel rejected or whatever it is. That's the healthy expression of that exact same feeling.
Yep. Which is, I use anger and mad. I tell them that mad is healthy, angry is unhealthy, but then I tell them angry can be healthy as well. And then the unhealthy version of anger is enraged.
You ain't never lied.
They're all levels. You know, we do talk, I'm sure all of us at some point talk about low, medium, and high feelings. You know, that's kind of how I describe it, that, you know, upset, frustrated, annoyed, irritated, all are kind of on the low end of the anger umbrella. Then you have angry / mad. And then you have livid, rage, you know, those kinds of things where that's the high level of all of, but again, they're all under the same umbrella. They're probably going to have very similar responses within your body. But what are you going to do about it?
Yeah. And then you can even have unhealthy versions to the positive emotions as well, because I tell them that happiness is the a healthy version, but the unhealthy version of happy is manic.
One more time for the people in the back, because I can't tell you how many clients come in and strive for happy. And we like, look, let's go ahead and get that notion out of your head right now. Striving for happy, you know, I'd like to talk with them about happy is an event. No one walks around in a state of happy. You know, now you can have, again, happy moments, birth of a child, graduation from school, got a promotion, things like that, got a new vehicle, bought a house. You have moments that are associated with this happy, but you don't just walk around like, oh, I feel so great today.
And I'm just going to smile all day, every day to everybody.
Yeah.
You're just going to look weird.
You know, old Ned Flanders up in here. You know, just like, oh, diddly dee. You know, no one walks around like that. Like,
not unless they're manic or has a personality disorder.
Yes, they walk around like that all the time. But your average Joe Schmo, you know, you're not walking around like that. You can be satisfied with life. You can be content and have peace and joy. I know you, Dr. Jones, likes to use peace and joy. You know, I like to use satisfied and content. But again, we're all essentially talking about the same kind of level of emotion. But striving for happy, you're going to be sad.
Yeah, the only thing that I could probably think of for people who want to go that route is maybe strive for bliss, but that is not an easy journey. Bliss is a extreme emotion, and not very many people achieve that level.
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is? I never even thought about it, because I never even think about using bliss.
Because who says that word?
Right, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last time I heard it.
I know.
And the only reason why I know I talk about bliss a lot is because that is a euphoric state that normally comes on my end of therapy, which is sex therapy. And the bliss state, you have to take really good care of your partner, because you have to help them come down from that state, or they can crash and it have all kind of, you know, negative, you know, problems. So we don't want that. But as far as just an emotional state and not related to sex or sexuality or anything like that, very few people try to obtain that, because number one, they don't even know about it. But number two, they're too focused on chasing the happy, and happy is the lower level.
Yeah.
When you put it that way.
The lowest level.
When you put it that way.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Wow. I hadn't even thought about that.
Me neither. Maybe I need to think about that line.
Well, I think something, you know, since we're therapists, people tend to come to us for problems. So our brain defaults to the unhealthier version.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, because this week I actually had a couple of clients tell me some pretty exciting news. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm so happy for you. And I said, you know, I like to hear good news too. I don't want just to hear about problems all day either.
Right.
I had that this week too. That's probably why we were saying earlier that it was not a heavy therapy week for all of us, but it was because a lot of our clients, now this is summertime.
Yes. Context.
Yeah.
This is happy time for therapy, but we are revving up to go into the harder months for a lot of people. And this week everybody was just saying about jobs and babies and keeping their boundaries. Like, it was just it was a good week overall, I think, in the balance speaking practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
and that's the thing. I think we have been seeing the caseload that we have for some time now, and so we have clients that are now working and applying the tools that we have been teaching them over these months. So that's actually a good thing to hear your clients come in and say some good news, like, hey, I don't have anything to talk about this week because everything has been going well. And even if it's not like perfect, because we don't expect for it to be perfect, but it's like, I had this situation, but I handled it differently. I didn't get angry. I set some boundaries. I was able to communicate effectively. I was able to express my emotions, and I was able to get through it. And that's what we want, because just because you come to therapy, it doesn't mean that you're going to be absent of problems.
No, you can teach. What I like about times like this is that we get to teach our clients how to have maintenance sessions instead of crisis sessions. Because for a lot of people, I'm gonna be honest, for the first 4 to 5 months, it's like crisis. because they are incapable of like lowering that level. It's just like it's 5,000 things going on because they have waited too long to start working on these solutions to these problems. But eventually therapy should be just like when you go to the dentist or when you go get your eyes checked or your blood drawn. Like it should just be
routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we have several clients that will tell, okay, so you've gotten to the point now. Let's let you spread your wings and fly, and you call us if you need us. You know, keep us on speed dial. That's fine. And if just we're not going nowhere.
Right.
I told a client this week. I said, "Well, how do you feel about coming once a month?" "What are you talking about? I'm coming in 2 weeks." I said, "Okay,
Girl, them step downs are the hardest."
Yeah, and you know what the thing is, in their initial true therapy session, I tell them, okay, so we're starting in the beginning right now, but my ultimate goal is for you to fire me at some point. And they always start laughing. Dr. Jones, I'm not gonna fire. Yeah, please fire me.
Now put me on hiatus.
It's something.
Can I go on sabbatical now?
Right. And so what we're saying, is that we want people to get to the point where they can feel like they can, well, no, not feel like, but they can actually begin to know that they're feeling better, know that they are able to apply the things and it's working for them, and they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And at that point, when they're able to do that, they can then they don't have to come every other week, they don't have to come every week, they don't have to come once a month. Now I'm just calling you when I need you,
as needed,
as PRN.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. So I'm like, yes. I had a couple almost had me in my tear ducts. And I was like, we're not doing this today, Jesus. Yeah.
I've only had a couple clients, actually one this week, but not for a good reason. I'll say that.
You had an AMA situation against medical advice?
No, this was a child.
Oh.
And her environment, is just not gonna. It's hard if you're not in this field or in healthcare or in a situation or like education where you work with children. It is extremely difficult to work with kids.
Yeah.
Not because the child themselves. Now, every blue moon, it will be the child. But generally, it's the kid's environment that makes your work unproductive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's basically this young girl. And when I say, I was telling our receptionist and Dr. Jones yesterday, like she almost got me. Like I could feel it like welling up in my eye because she was crying like that, that kind of crying. And I was just like, oh, Jesus, please hold it.
My heart.
Girl, I was in there like I literally could feel it like coming up. And I was like, I know if I blink,
it's coming.
It's coming.
I think we've all had some kids like that in the past couple of years where you just be like, oh, if I could adopt you, I would, because I feel like you need a different lifestyle than what you're getting. Your family is failing you.
Yeah. And it makes it even worse when your hands are tied to the point where, like you were saying yesterday, that you can confront them, but you have to go light on confronting them, because otherwise they'll pull the kid, and the kid has nobody to to help them through the situation. But then for you, it's like, as the therapist, it's like, okay, well, how can I help them? And they change it and stick to the change if they're going back to the same environment that's going to make them change back.
You have to do more coddling with the parents than you do the kid.
And that so goes against all the three of us. It goes against our therapeutic style and personality.
And the caregivers, let me say that, because in this particular case, it's not her parents, but the caregivers often don't know that. They don't even realize that you're the one that needs the tiptoeing, and you're the one that needs the coddling, and you're the one that needs the kid gloves, not the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once we get to that place where we got a good relationship, these gloves is coming off, and we having a real conversation. And you might not like me. You might not. But I'm gonna speak the truth of the kid, not of myself. Because if it was me, I'd been told you something crazy. But, but for the baby's sake, y'all know I have a client who has been with us almost since we opened, and I think this kiddo, not a kiddo anymore, as an adult, but came to us when they were like, what, 15, 16 or something
I was
like
thinking
that.
about 15,
and now they gonna be 20 next year. You know what I mean? And the way this person has transformed and just become a beautiful entity and self-sufficient and confident is totally different. But they ended up having to emancipate themselves. That's sad. You shouldn't have to do all of that.
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And that's partially why I've stopped working with children. I'll take on an adolescent every now and then. But, I mean, it's a lot of that. You just become exhausted. You know, you're investing all of this energy into this young person. And it's like, for what?
Yeah.
And then you blame me because your child is not different.
And you know what? That's a part of why on my initial, I have a spiel that I go through with the family. Like, I can work with your child and I will help them as best I can. But there will be times that you might have to come in here and I'm gonna have to work with you because they can't make changes on their own. They're children. So if they start setting boundaries or having dialogues with you, I don't know if that's different from what you're obviously it's different from what you're teaching them or how you're teaching them to communicate with you because you're still the parent. And now, you know, I don't want to make it seem like we're bashing parents because children don't come with manuals either. And so sometimes parents just need to know, okay, this is a whole different type of generation. When I was, you know, growing up, my parents, like we were talking about on another session, our parents would have done, sir, all your teeth is gone. What you just say to your mama?
Pop, pop. Right on your lips.
But see, this generation is different. So and each generation is different, you know? And so because we don't, like I said, children don't come with manuals, parents need us, you know, some guidance on what to say, what to do, how to do, you know, what this looks like, you know?
It reminds me.
I'm scared of what she's about to say.
It reminds me of a family that we all share. Oh. And I'm not going to say the person's anything, but we all had a kiddo.
I'm sworn to secrecy.
And each kiddo was different.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I almost felt like they weren't in the same family. Different.
Very different.
Yeah, I had the, like, emotionally intelligent, nerdy kid. Dr. Jones had the rambunctious boy that was kind of trying to figure out what his identity was in multiple ways. And then Dr. Strickland had the fire starter, like the Spitfire, like, and she was the baby or whatever.
She was a firecracker boy.
And it seemed like all three, we had the ones that fit our personality too. That was so hilarious.
Yes. Y'all be so surprised what we go through as therapists, and we hold it in so good.
Yeah.
Oh man, and I have the same reaction every time.
Y'all, we be laid out. We have to talk about that at least like once a month.
So like Dr. Wall said, the things that we go, oh yeah, I mean, if we could really get into some detail, like seriously, we could tell y'all stories for days, but it was a tough, all in all, that was a tough situation. It was tough this is the part of therapy that people don't tell you on the therapist side. It was tough to let those kids go.
Yeah.
You know, it was really hard to watch them, you know, okay, if things stay this way, hopefully, you know, we pray that, because these young kids are definitely in their close to their teenage years, if not in their teenage years now.
The boy probably is a teenager.
Yeah. But it's like if things stay this way and nothing improves, you know, you don't want to diagnose a child or diagnose something that hasn't really presented itself, but you can see the writing on the wall for several different types of issues kind of coming up.
For all three of them.
So this is just a side note. If you're listening and you're contemplating going to therapy, or even if you're in therapy, make sure we can only give you the tools. It's up to you to use them. You know, You have to be the one to apply them to your life. It's not enough for you to just come in here in the office once a week, because you only have us for an hour. That's one of Dr. Strickland's favorite things too.
Girl, I say you have 6 days and 23 hours that you don't see me.
Unless you're a little bit more severe, and maybe you got one other day in the week, and that's on special circumstances.
And that's
that's
temporary.
6 days and 22 hours that you don't see me.
And so it's up to you what you do with the rest of that time.
Yep.
And the one thing that I know for me, the one thing that I definitely ask my clients, okay, so what did you apply to your life this week?
On the same homework for 4 months. Don't come in here.
If I write this same note one more time,
Y'all don't understand. We can be very like now when it gets to that level. I have told literally, go back up there to Judy and tell her to tell Kelly to refund your money because we not having no session. Or we can put it on next time. And you think about what you're doing with your life. And when you ready to participate in your life, you can come back. Because I'm not doing this with you. But why?
Yeah.
Because I don't have to.
Yeah, and then because the thing is, you'll be in therapy and nothing is changing, and you'll be blaming your therapist. And it has
therapy doesn't work.
right. You not working your therapy.
Now, this ain't to say there ain't some,
Now, all therapists are not created equal.
because the word quack came from somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've heard some things that therapists have said to clients. If they're giving me an accurate description of what happened, I've heard some things that therapists have said, and it's been like, they what?
Highly inappropriate stuff.
And I can understand that, but I can speak for the three of us. We know each other's skills.
True.
You know, so for our clients that may be listening, make sure you're doing your homework.
Because y'all know.
When I see you next week,
Don't be playing. We know.
okay, it's
we
gonna
know
be,
a lot
it's
of
gonna
y'all
be
be
consequences and repercussions up in here.
And don't be trying to use the podcast as your excuse. Well, I was listening to the podcast and y'all said to do this, so I had did this, and then I was gonna do your homework.
But did you late cancel or did you no show? Because then it's gonna be a problem, another problem. Because you know better. You read the rules now. Come on,
Girl. As soon as you write them that little email, so I'll be canceling the rest of your session. Wait, do you have something tomorrow? Oh, now you ready?
And it's even worse now because they be trying to act like, why I was having technical difficulties. Well, why didn't you email me that you was having technical difficulties? Because I can't see you past a certain time because I'm not having no insurance fraud on my conscience.
Okay.
That one right there.
I've had several people through the changes due to COVID. They sending me a email at 10:43. What was I going to do with your 15 minutes? I can't build the insurance for that. And I know you don't want a 15-minute hour.
A 15-minute hour.
15-minute hour.
Where they do that at?
Not a 15-minute hour.
You going to respect me the same way I respect you. If throughout this, and y'all know this, throughout this year that I have had, I only took, 2 weeks off? And if I can be here through everything that I'm going through, you better be here. You better be accountable. Yep. It ain't that. We ain't asking that much now.
Yeah.
If you haven't caught the drift that we're very confrontational therapists,
Very much so.
but I say that in my intake.
I do too.
I tell them in my intake, like, look, and I tell them that's not going to work for everybody. So I may not be the therapist for you. If you cannot handle me calling you on your bullshit, excuse my language out there,
She getting a
mama, senora. If you can't handle that, then I'm not the therapist for you, and that's okay. And I tell clients, it will not hurt my feelings. Please do not feel that you are obligated to stay with me because you met me.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you. I always tell them, I said, hey, I'm super laid back as a therapist. You'll probably feel like you talking to your homegirl, but when it's time for me to get in your butt, I'm going to get in your butt. Yep. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah. I say, I don't have no problem with that.
They say that until you do it then.
Uh-huh.
Like, old girl that was talking about you just gonna take all my edges. Yes, gladly, and then I'll help you grow them back.
That wild growth oil.
Yes. I definitely have to tell because the population that I see.
Yes.
They expect it though, so.
Yeah.
Girl, it be on and popping in your office.
It be screaming happening. I'd be like, do I need to go into my purse?
I know. I be having
Look, they be having their ear to my door and
girl,
everything.
I got my little stethoscope. Like, what's happening over there? Oh, okay.
That's
She
why.
fine.
That's why one of my populations, Dr. Strickland, won't even let me. I wanted to start seeing them on Fridays, and she was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not there. I'm not there. So you need to see them on a different day."
You sure do. You sure do. And for anybody that wants to know what framework we tend to use, it's called rational emotive behavioral therapy. Now, we do have some other things that we lean on as well, but we are all rational emotive behavioral therapists, and then we don't play that. You gonna get your life. That's what you gonna do.
And the thing is, we are confrontational and we can be firm when we need to, but we also can be lovingly confrontational as well, because the thing is, we are like that because, first of all, this is a whole hour that you don't have time to waste, or our clients don't have time to waste, and we don't have time to waste. And so in that hour, we've got to make sure we give you the best, which is, I got so many thoughts. Hold on. So, which is why when people try to say that, therapists, only thing y'all do is just listen to people all day, that's draining, because for us, we have someone to see every hour on the hour, and we have to give each person the best version of us that we can give.
Except from 1 to 2 when I eat.
True that.
And the thing is, we have to remember everything. I've had several clients like, how do you remember that? Like, I remember the names of their mama. I remember the names of their brother and their sister, and then all the kids. Okay, so that's your 16-year-old. Okay. Okay, so little Johnny. Yeah, all right. So then, or it'll be something like, especially if you've been seeing somebody for like a year, pulling something way from the back. And they're like, you still remember that? And then having to do that, like you said, Dr. Jones, every hour on the hour. And we have to be able to switch. So I have to switch from Jane Doe to John Doe to, Billy Smith, and then Sarah, Williams. Like, and you have to remember all of these facts, remember all of these, okay, so what are we working on? And this is what we focus on. Okay, this is what we talked about the last 3 weeks. And then, it is emotionally draining, which is why I also tell my clients, don't trust a therapist that doesn't go to therapy.
In some type of way.
Yes.
Because I have my clients ask me that all the time. Do you go to therapy, or you just be preaching and not doing it? I said, no, I go to therapy, because if I didn't, I'd be in here and killed somebody. So y'all don't want to see that side of Dr. Wall. Y'all think Dr. Wall all nice and loving. You don't want that other side of that Scorpio to come out.
I heard that like Clint Eastwood, like do.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. Yeah, no, but I do agree. I think, and I have not gone in a while, but I have gone. But it's not, I do have other entities like, mentors and pastors, things like that. I do have other outlets to discuss things that's going on. Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be formal.
Yeah.
But it's therapeutic.
I want to take this time to segue.
Okay,
let's do it.
So, because, Dr. Jones just said, talked about the support system, but I want to talk about the fact that we got a whole 5'3" singer shooting women in the feet because she didn't have her support system around her. That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that kind of stuff, had they been, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm talking about Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez situation. But if they had been in Houston,
oh yeah, it would have been a different story.
He wouldn't even got out of Houston.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is important, because no one's going to look out for you like the people that care for you.
And that girl done lost her mama and her grandmother in the last like 2 years, right? Something like that. Like she really don't have none of her generation above her. Because her dad's not alive either, I don't think.
Yeah. And man, not having support, that's such a lonely feeling.
Yeah. And you doing everything, everybody on your back. You carrying the whole
Team.
squad. Like, that's not a good feeling, you know?
That's why it's
Make you
important.
paranoid.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. But that's why it's important for people to make sure you have healthy people around you.
Yes.
Because if you're the one that everyone is leaning on for support and you don't have support, what's going in these types of situations, like what just happened to her, what are you going to do? And none of us, no one on walking the face of this earth should be out here alone. Even if and someone I know may hear this and be like, well, what if you don't have siblings? What if you don't have your parents? What if your grandparents are deceased as well? The thing is, your family is what you make it.
You choose them.
Yes, because I have lived in several states. And every state that I go to, although my parents are alive, well, and I have a great relationship, I have 2 brothers, I have a great relationship with them as well. However, they're not in the same state with me.
Yeah.
And so I make my little miniature families where I am because I still need support because at this point my parents are 22 hours away from me.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
So they can't get to me immediately. But who can get to me immediately is Dr. Strickland because she lived 10 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
Or I can call her mom too.
I'm only 20.
And I was gonna name you next.
And I can bring the blue box if I need to.
See, she got a different type of support coming your way.
You know,
Right.
I just make sure whatever is needed is in the car. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
Right. And that's the thing. Dr. Strickland has a key to my house because before I met my significant other, I was there by myself. I have a house, a big house. Well, it's big for a single person, a big house. And so if something were to happen to me and don't nobody have a key, I'm gonna just be in there dead.
Yeah.
And we don't need that. But with that Tory Lane situation, we talked about this a few sessions back. It just makes me think about where his mind had to go to think that it was okay to be shooting people in their feet. This is not Harlem Nights. Don't shoot on a pinky toe. Even though he didn't even shoot her in the pinky toe, he shot her in the heels.
Yeah.
You know, and of course there's a whole bunch of speculation about what actually happened or whatever, but all I know is that if you get shot in the heel, more than likely your back was to the person. Let's CSI the situation trajectory, you know what I mean? So that is kind of weird to me, and I was like, if Meg Thee Stallion really wanted to beat up Tory Lane, she could, because she's 6 foot, he 5'3". I don't know. The
dynamics of that would be very
right.
It would her be reach easy. Is probably as
Did she just say her reach? Okay.
Her reach is probably his height. Yeah. So it just is strange. And then the other part of that is the fact, and people can disagree with me, but the fact that black women keep protecting black men and ain't nobody protecting them. That gets tiring.
It does.
Not that I'm gonna stop doing it with some boundaries on it, but it gets tiring.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure you make it home. I'm not telling what actually went on, but then you still throwing dirt on me.
Yeah. You see it all the time online. You know, I can't, especially if you follow any popular blogs or, entertainment sites, you see it all the time. You know, all the comments and things like that, just kind of degrading and tearing down. And it does get draining to look and see like, well, you don't see this in other people.
Nope.
And if you do, it's definitely not going to be onto the scale that we do.
And then that's the thing, because if we stop, then you're not a ride or die chick, which I know we hate that term, but still, you're not a ride or die. So
that's because I was tired of dying.
Right.
Yep.
That's a good point.
I ain't got time to do all of that. I've been in a abusive relationship. You know what I mean? It was more emotional and verbal, but I was like, oh, we're not ever going to be able to do that again. because my mindset for me to be able to take that, because I'm a straight up alpha female, I was like, I was broken beyond repair.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can only imagine what goes through other people's minds who are maybe not to where mine was, but maybe, you know, Meg the Stallion situation. She's out here riding a dime, which I hate. And she's like, I can't even trust the person that I done been with for these 7-8 months that I have my back. He's shooting me.
Right.
And it's, you know, and they're even on the same level. You know,
Well,
this wasn't.
We ain't gonna lie. Meg done surpassed him.
But they're both celebrities.
Yes.
They're both well known, at least in the Black community. Let me say that.
Yes.
And then the slightly younger Black community, I'd say maybe 40 down. But they're essentially on par with one another. You know, financially, they're going to be fairly close.
They're bringing similar things to the table.
So this wasn't like there was this huge disparity between the two of them that would cause one of them to feel like they had a one up on the other. You know, sometimes if there's an income disparity, the higher earner can feel that they can control the situation a lot more. So, you know, they didn't have that kind of power dynamic. So I agree with you. Like, it puts you in a mind of like, well, what was going on in his mind that the thing that I have to resort to is shooting.
And, you know, that actually reminds me of a conversation I was having with one of my clients this week about feeling like they've been hurt, and that hurt progressed to anger, and feeling like they still needed a relief or release, you know, and not knowing how to do it. And so I had to obviously give her some techniques of how to do a release without it being unhealthy. And so I'm just wondering, for him, did he get so angry that he felt like he had to relieve it? And obviously, because he did, but it was in an unhealthy way. And so that's, you have to learn how to channel that anger, like Dr. Strickland had explained it before, of having that verbal communication about it, but then sometimes you still need that release, that physical release to I guess kind of eliminate. Yeah.
And I mean, as a therapist, my thought process was like, okay, he got Napoleon complex. Okay. He has a track record of domestic violence. Like, I didn't know that until like stuff started coming out and they started pulling past police reports from other girlfriends and things of that nature. But, you know, you can feel a certain type of way being a man of a small stature. And if you not, like I was saying earlier, if you focus on the external versus the internal stuff, you're going to think that makes you less than, and you're going to project that on everybody else. And maybe whatever they were arguing about, he felt disrespected and she can't be walking away, or whatever the situation was, and stopped her. He felt like he was losing power.
Yeah, and of course, we all know that we have no idea what actually happened. We weren't there. So some of this is speculation and alleged as well. But I can imagine that, you know, just think about, and this is not necessarily a Black man thing, just a man thing, what our society in particular says about short men. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your number don't start with a 6, people don't want to hear it.
Which is so crazy.
You know, they don't want nothing to do with you. And this chick could be 4'11",
and it wouldn't even matter.
And it wouldn't, like, a dude that's 5'4" is good for you. But no, everybody wants somebody that's 6 foot, really like 6'2" now.
Right.
Like 6 foot really is pushing it now.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I'm only 5'2.25", and I do like me a tall guy. But that's also because that's what I grew up around. But I have dated shorter men, but their energy has to be.
They got big man energy.
They got they got BDE.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you know, my little short significant other is crazy.
But he has BDE. Like, he walk in like,
right.
What?
Right. He can command a room. And it's not that he has a short man, because he ain't that short. I mean, he's taller than me, but he is shorter than 6 feet.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, he can command a room just by his presence. And, you know, he has been approached and be like, You know what? You drive this car, don't you? I knew it. I knew you drove it. You look like you a multimillionaire. You know, he commands a room.
Yeah. I mean, that's no different. Dr. Strickland, for like the first few years I knew her, kept saying, "Are you really that short?" I was like, "Yeah,
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I've been this height since I was since I was 10. I was tall for 10.
But you know what? Every time you wear flats, it's like, I thought we were the same height. Why are you shorter than me?
I swear, I be thinking like so for the people that don't know me now, I have that same thing though, that people always think that I'm taller than what I am.
Yeah.
My aunt, funny enough, she actually thought she and I were the same height. Now my aunt is like 5'11", and I was telling her like, no, I'm like just a little bit over 5'8", and she was like, no, you're not. And I was like,
I am.
Yes, I am. And so when she was here visiting, I was standing beside her, but I had no shoes on. And she was like, oh my God. She looked down at me and she was like,
and she is tall.
She is tall.
She is.
And she looked at me and she was like, you really are.
You really are short.
Yeah, she was like, you really are short. Now I come from an extremely tall family. Like pretty much everybody in my family is, 5'10" and plus. Except for my mom. I don't know how that happened. And I didn't get none of that. Actually, both of my parents are short, which is weird.
I'm in that boat with you because most of the people in my family are ball players. Like we have probably like, I can count 5 people in our family that's short. Everybody else is tall.
Interesting.
But I prayed to be short because I like tall men,
Anyway.
Don't judge me, y'all. Don't judge me.
However, so back on Tory Lanez.
Yes.
So what I was saying, though, is, just kind of what we communicate in American society about short men. They are seen as less than, and that they can be bullied, and that they can, people make fun of them, and they're not taken
seriously.
Yeah, they are not.
Like Kevin Hart.
Right.
Even though Kevin Hart is taller than Tory Lanez.
He is a little bit. But short men, unfortunately, are not treated the way like short. So short men and tall women get the same treatment.
Yeah.
Because people are not notoriously, attracted. Tall women are seen as, now they don't get the like made fun of piece, but they're definitely seen as intimidating when they may not necessarily be
or they don't know their place. That sort of thing. I'm like, I'm standing here. This is my place. Like, it's not that. Calm down. Yeah. The other part of the Tory Lane and Meg Thee Stallion situation that has been really upsetting me and my friends is
it's upsetting me and my homegirls
is that because Meg got so fed up with what was going on behind the scenes, and she finally, revealed that it was Tory Lanez that shot her and all that. Other people now are calling her a snitch. I'm like, y'all do know she not in the street game.
Yeah,
she ain't never been in the street game. That's not
girl.
Snitches
How
are
snitch
people.
On myself.
Yeah, I'm like snitches are people who are participating
in
with
the
criminal activity. Come on now, y'all.
She
be
was
smarter.
shot. What was she supposed to do? Just keep the secret.
That's
ride or die.
That's the code. It's not a code if I'm not in the.
Snitches get stitches. She did get stitches, and she wasn't a snitch.
Okay. Look, I got my stitches already, so now I can snitch.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I was like, y'all got to be kidding me. It'd be one ridiculous. Thing if your name is 6ix9ine and you participating in the illegal behavior, then you go rat out everybody. That's not what happened.
Right.
We trying to go home, and you decide whatever happened, and then I got shot. So I'm going to tell my story because now you have provoked me to tell my story. I wasn't even going to tell nothing. Right. She was going to use whatever code she had made up in her mind.
Right. Oh, man, that ride or die idea. I know we talked about it on Trope Tripping 1. Mm-hmm. Go back and listen to it if you skipped that episode.
And Trope Tripping 2 for the men.
Yeah. But I almost feel like that needs its own separate, kind of discussion, is the idea of you stay no matter what, or that you protect no matter what.
Whose marriage that reminds me of that everybody has, a lot of people have seen the movie is What's Love Got to Do With It? You gonna leave me, anime? You gonna leave? Like that level of toxicity is not just because they were on drugs. That happens in a lot of people's relationships. A lot of people.
On a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
we're possessive.
yeah.
As a species, we are possessive. I mean, think about toddlers. One of the first things they talk, mine. Mine. You know, so we do that with people. You're mine. And I mean, I can't even say that I haven't said it at some point in my past too. You know, you say these types of things like, you're my insert blah, 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 blah. You know, so when you feel that you own something, then you feel that you can behave and react and do with it what you will.
Yeah, I ain't gonna be able to do it. I'm gonna need to have freedom. Now we can agree to whatever the parameters of our relationship are, but I don't need to feel smothered in a relationship, because then I'm gonna start acting weird.
Yeah, possessiveness is real.
It is.
It's not sexy to me. I don't like that feeling. It's like ants crawling all over me. I don't like it.
Yeah, because when someone is possessive, you feel like they're trying to control you, and that's the first. When I feel like someone is trying to control me, that's the first indication for me. Yeah, no, this is not gonna work. I don't care if it's romantic or platonic. We're done.
And you know, I had to check myself on, not on the possessiveness, but on my response to the possessiveness, because then the alpha female in me come out and I'm like, what you say? And I was like, okay, that's not appropriate, Nichelle. That's not how you should talk to the person you chose to be in a relationship with. Let me calm down, because can't be in here fighting 6'5" people. That ain't right.
Yeah, my whole temperament is not set up for that.
No, not at all.
So all in all, just make sure, you know, when you build these healthy opportunities for yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, you know, just make sure you have a healthy support system to help you to uplift yourself when times come that, well, like they tend to do, and they're difficult for you. You know, that's how you keep joy. That's how you keep yourself surrounded with joy.
And speaking of joy, so we want to take this time to kind of wrap up with our quote for the episode. So, sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps everything out of your house so that new joy can find space to enter. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up the rotten roots so that new roots hidden beneath have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take their place. And that's by Rumi.
Must be his volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at The Recycled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.